Evening, are ready, Garen? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 16th mid-monthly Tribal Council meeting. Call this meeting to order at 5:05. I'd like to ask Eric Armel to say our prayer, please.
Say good evening. Using Mona, I say a few words today. Say watch over our soldiers, boys and girls, near and far from home. Watch over our elders and our sick. Watch over our animals. Watch over the leaders. Pray that today is just as good, if not better than yesterday. So that much said, Mona Pinigi, good day, sketch you.
Thank you, Councilman Armel, for that prayer. We have an agenda before us this evening. The one addition to the agenda under new business is we're gonna add as number 1, the Peterbilt semi department. Are there any further additions to the agenda?
I'd like to talk about and selling or trading those freezers.
Oh, selling the freezers, okay. We'll add that as under Tribal Council item number 1.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
there was a submission by Human Services for Friday's Thanksgiving dinner by curbside. They wanted the council to see and approve. And I emailed it to everyone.
for number 2, is that regarding the corn soup?
Yeah,
Okay, so we have a request for donation, I guess request for sponsorship for the corn soup for the Human Services Thanksgiving dinner for number 2 under Tribal Council. Any other additions? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion by Eric to approve the agenda as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from John Snowball. Is there any further discussion? Any objections to the motion? Motion carried 246-700. Our first item is reading of the minutes. In your packet, you have the November 2nd regular Tribal Council meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? We have a motion from Rona to approve the November 2nd regular council minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second for Brian. Is there any discussion on these minutes? Any objection to the motion? Motion carried 700. The second set of minutes is for the November 9th monthly land meeting. Is there a motion to approve these minutes? We have a motion by John. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Brian. Is there any discussion on these minutes? Any objections to the motion? Motion carried 700. We have some 5 signatures to ratify. The first one is the approved resolution 21-28 with the Winnebago Tribe fiscal year 21 Northeast Nebraska Rural Health Alcohol Substance Abuse Network Planning Grant. And for the membership's awareness, this grant is the object and purpose of the goal of this grant is to network planning for 1 year to create a regional rural health alcohol substance abuse network with a focus on pre-treatment beds with a social detox focus, leveraging treatment services and post-treatment wraparound reentry services to be partnered with Winnebago Alcohol Program, Omaha Alcohol Program, Carl T. Curtis Behavioral Health Department, the IHS Drug Dependency Unit, and the Winnebago Comprehensive Healthcare System, 12 clans, and the Public Health Department. And so the expected impact on community is Native Americans in Northeast Nebraska will receive better, more coordinated alcohol substance abuse services through this network. After the planning year, additional funds can be applied for to support the network of operations. The Tribal Council passed a 5-signature for that grant submission. And is there a motion to ratify that 5-signature?
Make a motion to ratify resolution 21-28.
Thank you. Do we have a second? We have a second from Rona. Is there any discussion on this 5-signature? Any objections to the motion? Motion carried 7-0-0. The second 5-signature we have to ratify was to approve resolution adopt resolution 21-29, and that was for an absolute relinquishment.
So moved.
We have a motion from Louis to adopt resolution 21-29 for the absolute relinquishment. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Brian. Is there any further discussion? Any objections to the motion? Motion carried 7-0-0. Under new business, our added item by request was Peterbilt semi for roads. Alan, did you want to talk about that?
I will. If I'll share my screen and you can read the memo that I wrote for this. See if I'm not sure which. Can you see this one?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, I wasn't sure which screen it was sharing through. So we have a request to buy another Peterbilt truck. The tribe purchased one for the roads department using the TTP money back in July. This is same truck, just a newer model. And the funding for this is the work that the roads department did out on BIA Route 17. They earned through the CARES Act money. So they earned this money, then we pay them, and the intention was all along was to purchase the truck for them. And sorry about that. Let me get rid of purchase the truck for the department. It's the cost is between $134,551 and $135,051, and the difference, the $500 difference, is the estimate on the fenders. It's about $1,500 to $2,000 for the fenders. The salesman was in the process of getting me that quote, but I have a quote for the truck, and it's $125 for the truck, and then $8,051 for the wet kit, which is what they need for the PTO for pulling the side dump trailer, and then the switch for the tarp for the side dump trailer. As I said, we purchased this same exact truck, just a 1 year older model, and the department wants to keep the Peterbilt 1 because this is the best truck for our needs. It's got both off-road portions and on-road portions where it works best for them. It's got a tighter turning radius. We solicited bids back in July when we did the original purchase, and Kenworth and Volvo were not as good of a truck. So we're asking to, from a fleet perspective, keeping the same type of equipment. It's easier for maintenance, and that we did get additional quotes on additional Peterbilt trucks, and they have 2 others that we could buy, but they're 12 to 16 weeks out, and they are 140 and 154 too for the price on those, so they would be more. This is the truck that we need. It's just like the one that we bought. It's working great for the department, and we can have it delivered sometime in December, I believe.
Thank you, Alan. Are there any questions for what Alan presented? Eric?
Will we be trading in any of our older semis to purchase this one?
I actually spoke with the salesman today, and he was going to contact Elmer and see if it would make sense for us to do any trade-in. We have the Volvo and we have the Mac. It's a possibility, but it might be better for us to dispose of one of those trucks or both of those trucks, depending on the needs of the department, through a private sale.
Okay, so we'll probably be selling that another semi down the road then after we purchase this one.
It's possible. That's something I haven't had a chance to discuss with Elmer to make sure that they have what they need, because I know that they have the new Peterbilt. This would be the second Peterbilt. They have a Volvo that they've had trouble with, and a Mac that seems to run pretty well. So the idea when we were talking about this earlier was to somehow dispose of the Volvo if it because it's starting to get to a point where they end up costing us more money than they're worth. But it's working right now. But that is not it's a discussion that I haven't had yet with Elmer. But the thought process would be either via a trade-in with this one if it makes financial sense, or through a private sale, and then that would just bring additional money into the program.
Okay, I know this a while back we were having trouble with both of those semis, and we were discussing when we got that other new semi that it would just only make sense to ensure that our roads get another tractor, especially since we have winter coming, and we dumped a lot of good money into that tractor. So I'd be in agreement to purchasing a new one. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. John?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say that it's really good to see that this department earned this revenue and they can put it towards equipment that they need. You know how real important the equipment is to getting the job accomplished. And I know that we have two CDL drivers that drive those semis, two young tribal members that's real proud of that. I'm proud of that. So I like to, and I think it's smart that we stick with Peterbilt, like Alan said. We have for maintenance, repair, and those are the best trucks on the road. So I'll make the motion to approve roads purchasing that Peterbilt.
Second.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Eric. We have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of the Peterbilt semi as presented. Is there any further discussion? Any objections to the motion? Motion carried 8-0-0.
Thank you. I'll be putting the PO through for the approval in the accounting system, and reaching out to the distributor. There'll be some documents that we'll need to sign, but this was the main thing, getting the council's approval. I thank you, and I'm sure that the department thanks you. They're very excited about having that new truck that we already purchased for them. So, and with that, I'm going to go home and see my wife. Thank you very much, council.
Thank you, Alan. Our next agenda item is CV 20-81, Kitcheon versus Winnebago Tribal Council. On November 11th, there was a pretrial conference in the Winnebago Tribal Court, Victoria Kitcheon Plaintiff versus Winnebago Tribal Council, CV 20-81. I'm going to read this notice. This matter comes before this court on November 11th, 2020 for pretrial conference and on Roz Klub's motion to withdraw. Present by teleconference was Victoria Kitchion, Thelma Whitewater, Rona Steeler, Lorelei Decora, Brian Chamberlain, and Roz Koob. This court, being fully advised, finds and orders as follows. As the council has determined, Ms. Koob's firm should no longer act as the general counsel for the council. The court finds that the motion to withdraw should be granted, and Ms. Koob shall no longer be considered counsel of record for defendant. 2, the council intends to meet on November 16th, 2020, at which time it can take a position as a body as to whether a continuance of the proceedings should be requested. Ms. Kitchion indicated that she would not object to a continuance if requested by the council. Accordingly, should the council determine that a continuance should be requested, such continuance shall be granted in further proceedings scheduled under separate order. Should the council determine that the continuance not be requested, then the trial shall remain as previously ordered, and the council should designate a specific individual or individuals to act on the council's behalf at trial. So for the membership's information, I filed an appeal in tribal court to my removal, and per the policy, the court can do a procedural review of my hearing, and if they saw fit, they would give an order on my case that I filed of appeal. And so that's what this court case is about. The judge and the court had reached out to see if I was proceeding with this case, and I said I was. And so the question was, who would be representing the tribe, since I'm both the plaintiff and the defendant. And we shared with the court that we were in the process of getting new general counsel, and that the tribal council needed to decide who would be representing the tribe, and if that representation would be prepared for trial as scheduled on November 20th, which is this Friday. And so the pretrial conference was held, and the order that I read was what we received from the court. And so I open the floor up to anybody that was on the call if they have any comments.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I told the judge that since we still haven't selected a general counsel for the tribe, that we don't have an attorney to represent the tribal council. And even if we select one today at our mid-month meeting, that general counsel has to get caught up. So I said that the council hasn't discussed whether we want a continuance or if we'd go ahead and without an attorney ready. So that's what we have to decide as a tribal council. We're the defendant.
Eric?
Thank you. I wasn't on the call, but just because you're now the chairwoman of our tribe, I think the continuance should just be put away. You know, it's we moved on from that time. We're in a whole different time now. We don't have a legal representation, and this would be kind of a bad time for the tribe to go through this. And you're back on the council, and I just think that we should discontinue the continuance. That's just my point of view on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Eric, we're the defendant. We don't get to discontinue it. We're the defendant. The plaintiff is Tory. But all we have to consider is who's going to represent us if they have the hearing on November 20th. We're the defendant. Okay.
I agree with that. And just because we don't have legal representation, if anything, it should just be pushed back until we can get legal representation and have them brought up to speed on this case. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Thelma?
Since we have that on the agenda for selection of general counsel, we can do that at that time. But also there's going to be a conflict of interest being that you're on council now and you're suing yourself. I don't know how this is going to proceed. But the selection of general counsel is on today.
Thank you, Thelma. So with that, is there of, how would the council like to proceed? Is there a motion for a continuance for CV 20-81?
I'd make a motion for continuance on that until we can get legal representation.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
We have a motion by Eric and a second by Lorelei. Is there any further discussion? Are there any objections to the motion? Or did you have discussion, Thelma, or object? Oh, we got to
My discussion is on number 4. We're on number 1 now. On number 4, it says selection of general counsel. Can we move this to the bottom after we make the selection? That way we'll have general counsel.
Well, we have a motion and we have a second on the floor right now. Is there any further discussion? Is there any objections to the motion? We have one objection. All those in favor of the motion for continuance for CV 21-81. All those in favor, raise your hand. Louis, Lorelei, Rona, John, Coley, and Brian. Eric. No. Thelma. Abstentions. So motion carried 7-1-0. Our next agenda item is the adopt resolution 21-25 Liberty National Bank Winnebago Tribe Land Account. Our treasurer and our secretary were working on this with our CFO. Did one of you like to introduce this item? Okay, well, I'll just, I will chime in, but, so the Winnebago Land Company, as the membership and council knows, was dissolved on, that corporation was dissolved on August 6th, 2020, and in the meantime, the bank account is still under the former land company. And so there was a need to move those assets back over under the tribe's umbrella. There's been discussion on, how the land company will continue to function or be brought back under something perhaps that's more conservation based. And so the council hasn't concluded those conversations. But the one thing, as a matter of the tribe's books, it needs to come back under the tribe's control, and we can't have a bank account hanging out there that has no ownership. The board has been dissolved, the corporation has been dissolved, and so our secretary was working with our treasurer and CFO to get this resolution drafted. It's been looked at by the bank and is sufficient to have that action moved over to the tribe's name. And so there's a resolution in the packet to that effect. And the Winnebago Tribal Council establishes a land account with Liberty National Bank and approves the former Winnebago Land Company assets be transferred into the Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska land account with Liberty National Bank. So that's what this resolution would affect.
Motion to adopt, Madam Chair, with the appropriate number.
Second,
We have a motion by Brian to adopt resolution 21-25. We have a second by Louis. Is there any discussion? Is there any objections to the motion? Without any objections, motion carried 800. The
Had an
next-
objection.
Oh, you did object? Okay, I'm sorry.
I
Thelma.
objected.
Okay, we had an objection by Thelma, so all those in favor of the resolution 20-25, raise your hand. Louis, Lorelei, Rona, John, Eric, Coley, and Brian. Opposed? 1, Thelma. Motion carried 7-1-0. Thank you, Counsel. The next item on the agenda is the U.S. Commissioner on Civil Rights sent an email asking the Winnebago tribe if they wanted to take a position and participate in a hearing that is being held remotely. And the topic of discussion is the impact of Native American mascot names in Nebraska. So on behalf of the Nebraska State Advisory Committee on the United States Commission on Civil Rights, I would like to extend an invitation to participate on a panel for our hearing. The hearing is scheduled for December 14th at 9 a.m. And so I had replied to this person that the Winnebago Tribal Council would have to decide and take a position on this issue if anyone was to testify. So I guess the first thing that I ask is that, does the tribe wish to take a position on this? And we would directly work with our general counsel to draft testimony and to submit on the record on behalf of the Winnebago tribe. And then my next question is there anybody on council that is really passionate about this issue? And if there was any interest in testifying, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be me, especially if there was some strong interest amongst the council. So that's what this is about, not only to get an approval, but to gain interest from the tribal council. Eric?
Okay, 2 things. Do we know how many non-native teams we have in Nebraska? And 2, if this does go through, will this also affect us?
That's an interesting question because I thought the same thing. Like, we actually have, you know, an Indian mascot for our school. And I don't know, I don't have any data on how many schools in Nebraska or our area have an Indian mascot. I guess the only one at the top of my head is Ponca. But those are things that we could definitely ask this commission if they already have some research on that.
I don't think it
Yes,
would.
because it'd be good to do our homework first before we go and start talking about something. And that a question like that might come up on how we would want to separate that, because that mascot is us, but if it's a law that goes through, then it might affect us and we couldn't be able to use our own mascot as well. So just a thought. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Louis?
I think it would affect if we were the Winnebago rednecks. Well, if we were the Winnebago farmer, if we use this derogatory white name, that we can choose to choose ourselves. We have to make the chiefs. But I think the real issue is how they use Indian names without any consideration of the tribal people. And we want to make sure we put together a stance that we will be respectful to human beings, white or Indian, in selecting names.
So thank you, Louis. Does the council want to, I guess, does the council want to do this? Do they want to express a position on this? Eric?
We have until December 14th before that hearing. I think it'd be good for us to congregate and discuss this so we can all come to a combined conclusion, and we'll all be on the same page on the stance that we're going to take on this. So I would kind of like to do a meeting, like within a week before that, like the first week of December, so we can congregate and get on the same page. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. The email did ask for as soon as possible if the tribe would be interested in testifying, but you don't necessarily have to submit your testimony by as soon as possible. That it didn't give those type of instructions. John?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think first off, definitely opposed to Native American mascots used by non-Indian teams. I think it's very inappropriate. It's time, it's time for it to stop. And so saying that, I think we need to, it's our duty to stand against this, and not hearing anybody who's really stepping forward. I think our chair would be the most appropriate, and for that letter to be drafted by our legal. So if that sounds like a motion, I'll make that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by John to, for the Winnebago tribe to oppose Native American, or excuse me, to oppose mascots and to direct general counsel to draft testimony. Does that sound good?
I'll second.
We have a motion by John and a second by Eric. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, discussion.
Coley?
Yeah. I support this 100%. And I would think the person who sent that email should have all that data of the Nebraska schools. I'm hoping so. If we can request that data, the individual who sent that email to us, that would help. But I'm 100% for it. Thanks.
Thanks, Coley. I will get on that and share that with the council. Louis?
I think we should have a meeting that includes colleagues in the public school to get their opinion and see what they deem important to put in this. We've come a long ways. I never thought in my lifetime I would see the flag song at a state tournament. It was a highlight in my life. So we can go further. You will need to put a strong statement that explains our position. Because we have to explain, because they're ignorant. And ignorance supports crazy behavior on white people. They think they're honoring us. They're shaming us out. working on it. So we need to get other groups to support us.
Thanks, Louis. I'll reach out to the school board and to the school administration to see if they have anything they'd like included in that. Eric?
Okay, I have to leave here, but as far as selling the freezers, I'm in support of finding out who may have sold theirs or withholding that that meat voucher for the ones that have sold it, because now they don't have no freezer to put it in, so there's no need for that voucher. And as far as the corn soup donations go from Human Services, I'm in full support of whatever amount would suffice for their needs. So with that said, thank you, everyone.
Okay.
And, good night.
Thanks, Eric, for joining us. We have a motion on the table and we have a second to oppose the Native American mascot issue and draft testimony. Is there any objections to the motion? Okay, if not, we got 2, 4, 6, 6, 0, 0. Brian, are you still with us?
Yeah, I am, but I'm almost Winnebago, so the signal
Okay,
not great.
so 7-0-0 on that mascot issue. The next item is general counsel. We put out an RFP last month for general counsel services. To my knowledge, we've only received one proposal. I've checked the mail, I've checked with Annabeth and also with Alan, who thought he might have received one, but he didn't. And so to that extent, we have one response from Big Fire Law and Policy Group, LLP. We received an email last week, and then today there were hard copy proposals dropped off. If the council got a chance to look at those.
Yes, I did, Madam Chair, and I make a motion to approve the RFP submitted by Big Fire Law.
We have a motion from Brian Chamberlain to appoint Big Fire Law and Policy Group, LLP, for general counsel services for the Winnebago tribe. Is there a second? This is for the Winnebago tribe. Is there a second?
I second.
We have a second from Louis. Is there discussion? Rona?
Usually, I mean, in other places that I've always seen was like, you get some bids or competitive bids. Can you explain to me what happens when we just receive the one compared to receiving 2 or 3? And I just need to know a little bit more about that.
So per the procurement policy, the requirement is that the tribe solicits and there's no minimum response required. So when we submitted this RFP to Rita in contracting and had it advertised in the Omaha World Herald and the Sioux City Journal, I asked Alan if there was a requirement, a number of required proposals to move forward, and there's no threshold of minimum proposals to received to make a selection. So that is coming from our procurement policy. And we advertised the RFP in 2 places. And there's also no minimum amount of places that you have to advertise it, but we also did it on our social media and those 2 publications. Delma?
Yeah, I don't, From the time that you submitted that RFP, was that like, how many weeks was it?
It was
Remember?
a month long.
A month?
And so we did it 30 days out from the approval. So the next day I submitted that to Rita to be published.
Madam Chair, in addition, this is a Indian preference. These attorneys are American Indians. And two of them are Winnebago tribal members.
Yes, this is a wholly Native American firm with majority Native American women partners. Thelma?
Okay, who pays these lawyers? Who do they work for?
The Winnebago Tribal Council has a line item in our budget, and also various programs that call upon the legal services. They have budgets in their departments to pay for legal services.
No, I mean, who owns Big Fire Law?
Well, the partners are identified in the proposal, and so I can name those for you. Under section 2, key legal personnel and experience, there is Sheila Corbine. There is Leonica Charging. There is Nicole Ducheneau. There is Jennifer Bear Eagle, Wendy Helgamo, Kalandra McCool, Allison Von Sedgern, Michael Novotny, and I don't see their pictures in here, but Lance Morgan and Danelle Smith are also partners. But I think Danelle is, her priorities are, of course, at 12 Clans,
But who owns the firm? Who is that firm under? Is it under HCI?
no, it's not under
Who
HCI.
owns that?
This is a privately owned law firm, and those are the partners. So it says,
Okay, so do you see conflict of interest though, being that Lance is a lawyer on there?
Lance won't be working as general counsel. The firm is committed to providing tribal governments and corporations, agencies, and communities with superior legal services. But Lance Morgan is not the general counsel for the firm or for the tribe.
Call the question, Madam Chair.
So we have a motion and we have a second. Is there any objections to the motion? We have an objection. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. We have Louis, Lorelei, Rona, and Brian. All those opposed? Thelma. Abstentions? John. Motion carried 4-1-1. Our next item.
Coley abstained.
Oh, sorry, Coley, you abstained? Sorry about that. 4-1-2. Motion carried. Our next item is Human Services. In your email, you got some information on and a request. Human Services will be holding their annual Thanksgiving meal, and they are requesting as they do every year, for the tribal council to sponsor the corn soup. Initially there was one bid submitted, and there was some questions from tribal council on using a local tribal member. And we received a second bid in your emails.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to go with the Winnebago tribal member bid for the corn soup for Friday's Thanksgiving meal on curbside.
We have a motion by Lorelei, the bid for 18 quarts of corn soup for a total at $30 a quart is $540. Is there a second? We have a second from John. Is there any further discussion? Any objections to the motion? If there are no objections, motion carried 7-0-0. That concludes our new business. We don't have any old business. And our last item added was selling of the freezers. I should have done this in the beginning. I'm sorry, I got distracted, but as you all know, we recently had a freezer project that was underway. I'd like to thank the Tribal Council and the task force for approving this freezer distribution. There was a lot of social media traffic. There was a lot of phone calls that came into the tribal office about eligibility. And I had shared with each of you through email and through some direct emails with tribal members on how the tribe was trying to do the best they could with the CARES Act money, and that the formula that was used by the Department of Treasury, was not necessarily the formula that the tribe would have advocated for, because it didn't include every single tribal member. They used the Indian Block Grant housing numbers, which are based on census numbers from the reservation. And as we know, there's a variety of problems with that, with census being underreported. And so I know we saw a lot of, they used my number, I didn't get a freezer, but in fact, every tribal member wasn't included in those calculations. And for that matter, in some ways we could say that we were shortchanged. And so now we're left with doing the best we can with the resources that the tribe did receive. And we're very fortunate, we've got a lot of resources to do some wonderful projects that many have had a role in. So the freezer projects was one of those projects that we were able to do. And so there was a lot of helpers. We had the facilities team, Hanabena and his crew. Although, people were on quarantine, they did the best they could to help out and have all their guys out there. The Winnebago Tribal Garden and Cemetery crew, Trey Blackhawk, Wakanja Hardin, Joe Snake, Gene Gilpin, HCI Farms, Aaron LaPointe, Isaac Smith, Jeff Thomas Jr. We have a few missing names, so please forgive me if I don't have your name on here. We had the HCI ambassadors, Isabel Earth, Charlie Earth, Jadon Pear, Shania Morris, Bear Kennedy, Stuart Snake, Deshaun Kitchion, Devon LaPointe, the HCI Community Impact Department, Janelle Decora, Finance, Tally Neff, a lot of people behind the scenes, Matt May, Winnebago Communications, Garen Coons, Winnebago Inventory, Winnebago Procurement, the reception and administrative staff here in the building, Annabeth, Tyresha. So there were many people, and probably many more that I didn't get to name, but we greatly appreciate all the hard work that went into providing the elders their freezers, the CHRs that took care of the quarantine families, everyone that had a role in this, we're very thankful to you. And unfortunately, late Friday afternoon and into Saturday, there were some videos going around of people that were selling these freezers already. And that was really disheartening to see, not only because of the good feelings that went into making this project possible, but that there were many that were not able to share in this distribution. And so it was very sad to see some of these go to, you know, border town bars and such and be sold on other platforms. So I just want to introduce that. Councilman LaRose, you know, wanted to make mention of that on the agenda. So the floor is open on the council's feeling about not only this project, but also some of the hardships that we've encountered after the rollout.
I would go along with Eric's suggestion that we not, if they sold his refrigerator, we not give them any more meat. We publish their name in the paper.
Thank you, Louis. John, did you have a comment? And then Rona.
Yeah, I just wanted to, like you said, thank everybody who was a part of that. I know it was a lot of work to bring in 800 freezers and distribute them. You know, that's a huge task, and it went really well. You know, we almost gave out over 700, and then there's even going to be another round for another group of tribal members. So that was really good to see. And then on Saturday, like you said, we see the posts, you know, like Louis said, you know, really no shame and just going right up there and selling them to other people. So that was really unfortunate, and it kind of made me feel bad that, you know, that families could have used that, and maybe their families could have used that. Maybe there's some children that could have benefited from that and the meat and the freezer, but they did other things. And I know that they signed an agreement to not sell them. So I think the next step would be to go through with procurement or come up with a plan with our workforce, our staff, on following up on that, and maybe checking in to ensure that the agreement was followed. And like Louis said, in any future assistance, that those people would have that on their record, I think. Like I said, you know, I know there's probably a lot of people who didn't go get the freezers because they had thoughts of other people saying that, you know, maybe somebody else needs that. You know, I'll be okay. But to see people do this is really disheartening, like everybody is saying. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Rona?
Okay, yeah, I kind of agree. I agree with Eric and Louis on, you know, is there a way we can find out who sold them? Because I did go out there for a while and I watched Billy and the girls and all her helpers. They had a scanner. They scanned the freezers and then they attached them to the certificates at the same time. You know, but the hard part is, you know, who did they sell them to? And are they willing to give up that information? Because it was done in front of the local bar, but we don't know if the local bar actually took them or if they just sold them to somebody else that was outside the bar. And I just hope that we can get it resolved and that other people can take advantage of their mistakes and be able to, I don't really want to say penalize, but, you know, maybe from this point, it's really hard. It's a, you know, catch-22, you know, whether you penalize them, you know, you're going to hurt them at the same time. You know what I mean? And maybe they had some kind of hardship that they needed the cash. We don't know. So just for future reference, you know, maybe we need to keep a tighter control on some of these items that we provide to the tribal members. I don't know how that'll be, but we can't stop what we're doing because we have a majority of people who have benefited. So I don't know, we just need to work on it, I think, to keep better track. Thank you.
Thanks, Rona. And the serial numbers on the freezers is directly tied to the certificate that they received. And so, but what makes it difficult is to be able to identify which freezers, you know, switched hands and which serial number would trace back to that meat voucher. One thought that I had was that when you pick up your meat with that voucher, you know, there's a designated person on that. And if you didn't fill in that somebody else would pick it up, that was not only on the voucher, but that was on the top portion of the form. A photo ID is required to pick up the meat. And so if you have non-tribal members coming to pick up the meat, that might be one indication of someone that was not the recipient, the original recipient. So I'm just thinking out loud, you know, how we really track it down without somebody being forthcoming and saying, yes, I bought it. And I know that Billy is still looking for avenues to do that. There was law enforcement requested to follow up. That was a suggestion. So I don't think it's been resolved, but the council definitely will be informed if there's more information. Thelma?
Well, first off, I wanted to thank Roland Warner, him and Alan Post with the idea to have this freezer for tribal employees in need in their time of pandemic. And then for the freezers themselves, the ones who were sold or whoever sold them, I don't think there's a way of tracking it. So I think this one will just have to slide, and I don't know how we're gonna have to tighten it up next time, but we're just gonna have to think of a way. So, but I just want to say thank you to everyone who had a hand in it. And I know the community members appreciate it. There's a lot of other community members who didn't get to get a freezer that could have used it. And they have big families, you know, and the little freezer ain't gonna fit, you know, what they need. So they couldn't really use it. So I really feel bad that somebody took it upon themselves to go sell it for some other reason than what it was intended for. So I just want to say thank you to everyone.
Thanks, Thelma. Coley?
Yes, thanks. I guess we don't know if it's actually true. What was really exchanging at that point. So we don't know the facts, if they were being sold for sure. But when we do find that out, if we do find that out, I think we need to put out a statement. Thank you to those who appreciate it. And shame on those who abuse this. Because it does happen. It has in the past. Children's vouchers, their clothing vouchers, and so on. And this is the problem we have. Problem future tribal councils are going to have to deal with, to take care of our people, to heal them, to make them wealthy, as I said earlier. It's been going on for decades, centuries with our people. So we always need to do more. That's when you do something, you say, okay, now what more can I do for our people to try and help them, make them better, make them healthy. So when we do find, so I guess when we find those facts out, if they were sold, if we can find that out, then we write that statement. Shame on you. But we're proud of those who take advantage of this and do good things with what we offer and what we can do. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Colin. Definitely lot more positive to take in from that. So okay, well, I will I think you've gotten the emails from Billy, and so I would be remiss, I didn't mention Billy, that she had a role in all those coordination and boots on the ground with all the other helpers. So thank you to her as well. And we'll keep you posted. And if we get any more information from Billy, I'm sure she'll pass that along to the council. I have a correction. I saw it in the chat. For that motion for human services, the total is actually 805, and that includes the meat and the beef base. And so does council want to make a separate motion to support the meat and the beef base? That's my error. I apologize for that. Rona, do you make a
Oh,
motion?
no, yeah, make a motion to buy the meat and I guess it's what is it called? The base?
The base, the beef base, the bouillon kind of.
Oh, the
stuff.
bouillon part, yeah, okay. Whatever the difference is between 805 and 540.
Second.
Okay. Was that you, Brian? Or was
Yeah.
that- Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and that takes care of the meat and the base. Is there any objections to the motion? Any further discussion? Motion carried 700. So that takes us to the end of our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion
So
to
moved.
adjourn.
We have a
Second.
motion by Rona, we have a second by Brian to adjourn at 6:06 PM. Any discussion? Any objections to the motion? We are adjourned at 6:06, 700. Thank you, council. Have a good evening.